All right, welcome again to this new forum on indirect procurement. My name is Max Henry from the Global Supply Chain Council. Very pleased to have you, all of you joining us from different part of Asia on this new topic of indirect procurement. As you know, we are running those forums and roundtables on a regular basis. We cover all the topics within the supply chain end to end, and of course, procurement, and more specifically, the procurement of indirect categories has always been very interesting to us. So we're very, again, happy to be able to put and organize this session together today. So we are joined today by a number of great speakers and panelists, again, who are going to be introducing themselves. But before they introduce themselves, I also want to remind everybody that this is going to be an interactive session. So if you want to ask a question, you can make use of the Q&A button located on the left side of your screen. Feel free to ask any question if you have a specific topic or a problem, or a challenge that you're facing with your indirect. You can ask, and then our panelists will be here to help you and give you their response and feedback and advice. So let's get started. Maybe I'd like to bring first Christina to introduce herself. Welcome, Christina. Go ahead. Yeah. Make sure to unmute here.
Thank you, Max, and thank you everyone for making time this afternoon. I'm very sure Max and the team will make the 60 minutes worth your while. So my name is Christina. Some of you may know me. I've been in procurement for about 27 years. I was counting just now. And various industries from diverse industries. So right now, I consider myself a former CPO, waiting for a board placement to move my career to the next level, and working on my second book. So happy to contribute and share my experiences from all those 27 years. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Christina. Next is Gloria. Welcome, Gloria. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi all. Nice to meet you. I'm Gloria, and I am based in Hong Kong, and I am now working in DFI Retail Group as the Group Procurement Manager, which I oversee majorly on facilities management. And also I have more than 10 years of experience on various industries in procurement. So nice to meet you all, and hope to contribute to the wider group. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Yeah, Mark, welcome.
Hi everyone. I'm Mark. I'm based in Hong Kong. My background in indirect procurement really stems from the banking and finance industries. So I'm looking after IT, non-IT procurement, as well as travel, as well as some facilities as well. So happy to be here today.
All right. Next is Niraj. Hi, Niraj. Welcome.
Good evening and hello everybody. My name is Niraj, and I am the head of indirect procurement for Jardine Schindler. I'm based in Malaysia. My company is basically a market player in escalators and elevator business. So I'm happy to share my experience and also learn from all of you today.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Niraj. Okay. Next is Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Kenneth. I currently work at NTU, a Singapore-based university. Prior to this, I've been in procurement for 20 years. Probably have been through B2C, B2B organizations in procurement. Today, I manage the shared services. Still managing procurement as well, but in a different capacity. So happy to share my experiences.
Great. Thank you. Next is Shinta. Welcome, Shinta. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Max. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening. My name is Shinta Sutoyo. Currently, I'm working at Lingaja as the head of general service. Lingaja is an electronic money within the apps. It's actually owned by the SOE or state-owned enterprise and some private companies. I based in Jakarta. My expertise in procurement spanning 10 years in indirect procurement related with chemical, marketing, office management. Hope you all enjoy our discussion and sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shinta. And last but not least, Eric. Welcome, Eric. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Harry. I'm the regional procurement manager for Borouge, oil and gas company. I'm based in Singapore with 18 years procurement experience and leading a procurement function in Asia Pacific for more than 10 years. I'm specialized in capital projects and indirect procurement, and I'm a published author as well. Very happy to be here to share and to learn from each other today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much again for that round of introduction. So before we get started on our own topics, again, I want to remind one more time to those people who just joined us that we want to keep that session as interactive as we can. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to post it at any time, and we'll be happy. We will prioritize them, and we'll be happy to take your questions as they come. So let's start rather general, and I want to maybe get your feel and your take about your view on why indirect procurement is kind of different. We are in a very we're in the APAC region, and obviously, APAC Asia is made of a lot of different countries and different cultures. And what do you think? This region is so particular when it comes to procurements, more specifically to indirect, and what kind of challenges do you think companies are facing when it comes to managing indirect with so much, so many countries and so many different kind of cultures and mindset when it comes to procurement? Anybody?
I mean, I'm happy to chime in. Today, I don't manage many countries, but I think in my prior experience, I think it will be. I mean, I think indirect procurement is by itself a cluster of different categories that behave very differently. So if we think that we can all consolidate, have one vendor for each category, I think you're making it too simple. And when you add in the layers of the different unique nuances across the region, different, even smaller clusters are different on their own. And some of these subcategories are very, very local. So you need to blend the need for regional strategies. It could be a regional strategy for something done locally. It doesn't always have to be a local vendor. Maybe I'll
Good
stop
point.
with that. But that's probably
Yeah.
a first place to start.
Interesting, Kenneth. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody
And I
else? Feel
think I
free.
would just want to add to that, right, is that, and I'm going to be very blunt about it, okay, straight to the point, is that indirect spend has been kind of relatively inferior to direct spend. And typically direct spend is a lot bigger, scale, magnitude, whatever, right? So the indirect spend typically focuses on internal requirements within the organizations, right? And there's this diverse range of suppliers. Back to your point, Kenneth, about how local some of the suppliers are. And some of these locations are truly dependent on the local suppliers. But you can have a regional strategy, but implement it local. Something that HSBC says, right? Think global, act local. Yeah, Mark?
Yeah, I think very much so. And I think one of the difficulties of the region, especially for those who are not in Asia, they don't realize how many cultures we are juggling, how many different types of corporates and types of suppliers that supply similar goods, but they're so different. So I think I'm repeating the same point. There are so many nuances to how we approach what we buy, and trying to make it strategic is not always straightforward.
Yeah. Thank you. Shinta?
Yeah, adding to the others, yeah, I agree with the others. But other than that, our challenge or like the things that we need to consider within the others Asias or maybe countries that across the Asia is like the complex regulation from the government or the local authorities is like something that sometimes you think that is possible in Asia, but it's not possible in other countries. So like the one is like nowadays want to become a procurement. I think it's a challenge in the people also. Then we really need to consider a lot of these things, and we see whether we can see what the things that can address this challenge.
Okay. Yeah. Niraj?
There are. I would just like to add one more point. I mean, with all good views given by the other panelists, right? We also have suppliers with the strong competency in certain regions, and but they do not really come with the technological prowess that is needed to pass on the visibility back to the business, and it becomes challenging to onboard these vendors when we are trying to think bigger into a regional footprint.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I fully agree on the point from Niraj. I mean, in terms of this, I mean, we talk about Asia, right? Different countries have their own set of regulation, system, language. This is only one set of story. The other part is that they also have their, how can I put it, in terms of digital technology capability, they have different level of maturity and capability with different level of digital infrastructure and adoption of e-procurement tools. So this, I would say, it cross another layer of complexity in managing direct procurement. Because just now we talk about so many countries. I mean, the span is so I mean diverse, right? I mean, whether we can have a system to manage that. But if I mean the vendor itself, right, they don't have the digital capability, this is another challenge. Yeah. The other point I want to add on is that okay, I mean we can't in terms of procurement professional, right? We're managing the indirect procurement in all these countries. Of course, we cannot expect all our procurement staff to speak different language in different country. But I think the certain level of cultural training for the procurement staff will definitely support. Yeah, this is some of the add on from my side.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, Gloria.
Last but not least, I think I agree and echo to all of you's point on the challenges. And one more point, it's on indirect procurement is on the energy prices. So I think all of us noticed that the energy prices were increased in the past year, for instance, like in Hong Kong or maybe in Singapore. It's especially quite volatile in Singapore. So I think the challenges is we need to understand baseline and the data and also understand all the key energy consumption and explore the initiatives with good payback. So I think all of these are the challenges, but we have ways to deal with it. So let's see. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so obviously, yeah, the region is quite complex. There are a lot of countries, a lot of categories that indirect procurement professionals have to cover. But let's stay still a bit general. We'll deep dive into some of the categories a little bit later in the discussion. But I want to maybe stay on more general things right now, and if you could share, based on your own experience, maybe some of the strategies that you have implemented to manage indirect procurement, especially in the face of inflation and all the trade tension that we've been having recently, of course, and also the risk with and post-COVID and what we had. So maybe if you could, using your own background, using your own company, sharing one interesting strategy that you use to manage indirect procurement cost in the face of inflation, for example. Anybody would like to get started?
Max, yeah, if I can just throw in this example, and you said it right, with high inflation, a company needs to be very careful about cost, correct? So the cost of operations and everything needs. So the first casualty of indirect spend that's going to get hit, typically from my experiences, would be two things. One is travel, which we'll cover later. The second one is consulting. And I want to pick consulting first because that's something that is important. And in today's situation, a lot of the budgets for consulting has been cut. But then again, we do need consulting services for obvious reasons. So how do we get through that? So I can share some examples where we have, for myself in various industries, that I've spoken to consultants to think about not just being a consultant, but you need to have skin off the game, right? And you need to come in and we work on things like business outcome model, so that instead of just I'm working on X hours, I'm going to charge you these fees, but outcome basis model is one. The other one is more about self-funding model. If you can find all the savings that's required, we'll use the money from the savings to pay you. But of course, we'll pay you for your out-of-pocket expenses, right? Professional fees will be taken off the savings if you do fine. So it's like no fine, no gain, no pay, that sort of a thing. So I'm just going to put two of these examples on the table. That's how, as a procurement team, we don't give up. It's like, oh, we're going to cut consulting expenses or travel expenses. Let's not do anything. That's not the way it is. We'll have to be very, very resourceful. I'm just going to stop there.
Interesting.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Niraj?
Well, some of the ways how we are trying to do is we see some of our suppliers who are actually constrained, have a cash crunch because of the inflation issue, right? They borrow higher, and which is making it difficult for them to fuel some of their business needs. So we are trying to embark on the program of supply chain finance, where we are able to actually make the capital available to our suppliers quite early in the journey, so they are able to fuel their needs. Having said that, there are some challenges of adoption because of, as Eric previously mentioned, in terms of digital maturity that these organizations bring in. But this is something that we are trying to provide to our suppliers so that we don't penalize them for what inflation is pulling us in.
Thank you. Yeah, Gloria?
So, echoing to what the challenge I've just mentioned about the energy. So, I think one of the innovative strategies that actually it's happening in DFI Retail Group, it's on the energy projects. So, basically, what we're trying to do is we are trying to look into the baseline of the energy consumption, because energy, maybe you don't notice about it, actually takes up a lot of indirect procurement spend as well. So what we are trying to do is analyzing the energy consumption, and also we look into what initiatives are with good payback for the business. So I think, for instance, like around 2 or 3 years would be a good one. So one of the example is the smart aircon control. So we try to have a pilot, and after the pilot, we found that, okay, so the savings is proven, the payback is proven. So that's why we have the mass rollout to our remaining stores and sites, and also the DC. So I think this will be a good example of, baselining, analyzing, and also applying the project initiative into a real life example. Yeah.
That's interesting. Thank you, Gloria. Anybody else? Feel free to unmute. Yeah. Yeah, Kenneth?
Yeah, okay. So I think what we have also done is to really consider rethinking, and especially when it is indirect, there are a lot of opportunities to rethink whether we can change the way we buy. So I'll give a case in point. We had a car park in, we have many car parks in the campus, and we realized we were spending about $1 million just changing the barriers that goes up and down on an annual basis. Then at one point we decided, what if we took the barrier away, right? What would it mean, and what impact would we have? And then after balancing the pros and cons, we realized it wasn't a bad idea after all, right? So sometimes taking a step back and re-challenging the norms might not be a bad place to start. So if I go back to the principles of how we look at category management, from consolidating spends, buying differently, which is what I talked about, buying less, right? These are key approaches to any category that you can actually think about to really change the way you buy and significantly reduce potentially your costs.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Kenneth, yeah, for your feedback. Anybody else would like to comment on this?
Another example is about travel. Some companies still use travel agents for their huge bosses, right? Because going into online booking and all that is different. So if we ask ourselves, how do you go for your next vacation? Do you use a travel agent? Oh, we'll just go online and do it. So why can't this kind of behavior or practice be adopted by a company? So do away with travel agents, get online, whatever brand, and just get people to do it that way as if it is your own vacation, even it's just a business travel, right? So that is
Yeah.
a drastic example of, back to Candace's point about rethinking procurement.
So we have actually, there's a question is still already coming in, and there's a question about that travel category. The question is, the travel category is coming back quickly, but prices are all over the place because some are very high, some low, especially airfare. How can this volatility be managed, especially in Asia? You view on this? What's your advice? It's true that there are a lot of differences in price, and it's just sometimes very hard to understand where the market is going. Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much bargaining power your company has. Um, from my previous working companies, we did have a deal with the airline. So if you have the volume to talk to the airline, by all means, start talking to the airlines directly and see if you could provide some historic volumes and get a deal in place. They want a regular business. They want you to be loyal to the airline. So if you have a volume that you could give them, they would give you a deal. But if you are a smaller corporate, probably it will be more difficult. Now, it could be, I could be saying something that is against what I just heard about doing away with travel agencies. Sometimes the travel agent might be able to pull out deals that you cannot so easily find online. Okay. And of course, buying a ticket online and buying a ticket with whatever booking class, there are differences. There are differences to whether you could change the ticket, whether you could delay the trip, things like that. There are a lot of little things that you need to watch out for. So if the traveler is flexible, probably online is cool. But if the traveler needs to have flexibility because meetings pop up and they have to delay a trip, then a travel agent will be your help. So if you have a trusted travel agent, talk to them and work through that, and maybe something could be worked out better. So that's on the travel side.
And I just want to throw in one other point, Mark, right? It's the travel policy of an organization is key. Back to
Absolutely.
your point about last minute booking and all that. So we tell everyone in the company to plan your trips. 80-20 rule, of course, right? Emergency is different. So that is the travel policy link as well. Pay attention to travel policies. The other point about travel agent is, if you really need travel agents, what one could do is, from my experience, is we have the online booking, we have the fares from the travel agencies. Plus, we go directly to certain airlines and negotiate directly and upload all those fares together. So a traveler employee can have a choice. If I were to travel on Wednesday to Singapore from Kuala Lumpur at 11 a.m., I bet you it's going to be very cheap versus Monday morning at 7 a.m. flight, or returning from Singapore on Friday evening, right? So depending on the trends and so on. So we need to be really, be open to details on how the behavior of employees vis-a-vis the travel planning. Just to throw in that point here.
Right.
Okay. Good. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I just want to have a short comment on Christina. I fully agree. I mean, actually, the behavior in terms of travel, right? The behavior of the employee really causes a lot of additional cost. Seriously, yeah. I mean, just an example, we have travel agent seriously, and we have two different module. Online booking, one charge much lower, and then if you need the personal engagement, right, then the charge will be 3 times. Still, a lot of people prefer, okay, I just ask this travel to arrange everything for me, and then you pay 3 times more, right? I mean, simple as that. Okay, I mean, again, I fully agree that behavior, I mean, proper planning, without proper planning, and this kind of behavior really cause additional unnecessary cost to a company.
Okay. All right. We have more questions coming in, so let's step in and answer them. There's a question about GPOs. So, have you worked with group purchasing organization (GPO)? If so, what are the pros and cons of working with them? Anybody has experience with GPOs in your own company or country? Yeah.
Yes, I did, where it's a global function. Procurement is a global function. So wherever the headquarters is, I had an experience with New York when I was in IBM, and then with Air Liquide, where the headquarters is in Paris, for example. But to the extent that is possible, I think someone made a point just now that the people overseas may have no inkling about how things work in Asia, right? So hence, this is our role. The voice of Asia needs to be loud and clear. We live here, we know how and what makes people tick, right? How suppliers behave, how our employees behave, and so on and so forth. So to the extent that's possible, whoever's asking the question, you need to use the global organizations to show the direction, the strategy. But how you execute it, you need to step in. Because many times, a lot of the teams will say, yeah, but that's what global wants. And we would need to follow. I wouldn't want to accept that answer. It's, excuse me, you live in Asia, so you should know better than somebody in New York or Paris, just to start that discussion.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else? Yeah, Gloria?
Yeah, echoing what Christina just mentioned, I think it's a really good, say about, well, actually, global has a stand. So, for example, like myself in DFI, I'm group procurement, but not every group procurement's decision dictate the local country's decision, I would say. So we also find out that in group procurement, sometimes when we centralize or leverage the group procurement volume, it's better for the business. But sometimes we also find out that if the local country they source themselves or the regions they source themselves, the total cost ownership, I would say, is even better for the business. So I think it depends case by case whether the category or the goods or services itself do needs, to leverage the global scale or the regional scale, or actually it's cheaper or more sensible to buy from the local team. So echoing on what Christina said, I think it totally makes sense to make the own judgment case by case based on that goods or services. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Mark, yeah.
Yeah. With what Gloria mentioned, I'd like to throw in an example. I used to work with my US head office with one of my companies, and they would have their global deal for the IT services and IT hardware, the servers, and so on. And then typically I will say, great, I'll go and talk to my local guy. And often I could get an even better deal than what the global pricing is. Okay. And I would go back and say, I've got it a little bit better than you all. We're going to take that one. Don't take the global pricing as a Bible. That is just a reference. Do your job when you're here in Asia. There could be surprises still. So,
Okay, yeah. Eric?
Yeah, probably some add-on from my side. I mean, when talk about this GPO, right? So, okay, I think it's very important to have the proper alignment because when we have this global sourcing, right, global procurement, they may be focused more on the consolidated cost, leverage bargaining power, get a better deal, and that's all. In terms of execution, still, the execution need to be done in local. And then, so the alignment, the priority alignment between the global sourcing and the local operation team should be fully aligned. Otherwise, you may negotiate a good deal. At the end, the culture may not be implemented properly in the local. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, we have more questions coming in, so let's continue and respond to them, and let's try to be quick so we can cover more ground. So the next question maybe is there's one: how effective are performance evaluation, and what does ROI means for marketing spend? Yeah, that's a tough category, let's say. So can we, what's your take on this? Does ROI and those evaluation work for marketing spend?
In fact, if you ask me, I think marketing ROI works best for marketing spends. I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
the challenge still is the lack of there's a lot of data because we've gone into digital for now maybe 15, almost 20 years. I remember when I first started marketing procurement, we always had data, but the problem then was that digital was only like 10% of the spends. Today, in more progressive MNCs and B2C companies would have easily 30, 40 or more of their spends in digital. So I think the aspiration to reach the holy grail is closer, but there's still going to be that gap. What is that? I think what I've also worked on at one point was even working with a data company to even correlate even TV data and search data. So TV data meaning someone watching the television, but because they saw a television, they start to search directly online. There was a correlation that they could attribute to it, and that helped them optimize even further. So I think at the end of the day, we in the marketing space, you need to be very clear what we call working spend and what we call non-working spend. Working spend is spend that basically buys you eyeballs. Now it's getting hairy nowadays because social and all that is playing a part. That's called um what so let me address working and non-working first. So you have working spend, which is like paid media. You've got non-working spend, and that's basically the cost of creating the creatives that go into the media. So your advertising, photo shoots, the creation of the idea, creation of the tagline, all of that are spends to get you the people that are interested in your product. But the actual means to get you the attention is through the channels. So you need to be very clear. Are your non-working spends optimized against your working spend? So what could be a disaster is if you spend $50 on creating the the advertisement and $50 on spending on media, then it's a bit lopsided. Obviously, the smaller the organization, the more lopsided your numbers will look. But just to summarize it, I think ROI is important. It should be in your mind. And sometimes I even challenge users when they go on sponsorship in the past, where why are you spending this money on sponsorship when you're not actually tapping on this sponsorship to do more work
Yeah.
around it, for example.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Christina.
I just want to add this point about the education of how we explain it to the CFO. Okay, this is something that CFOs, I mean, from my experiences, it's always an evergreen dispute between the CFO and the marketing budgets, right? And the marketing folks think that they are the kings of the world, the king of the road. They can demand everything they want. So there's this clash, right? So the point of the matter is ROI is important, yes, but branding needs time to be built. It's not an overnight success, right? So that is something CFOs need to understand. But then again, as a CFO, you can't wait for so long. So we'll have to think about, oh, it's high inflation now. The first thing we need to cut is the marketing budget. Whoa, stop right there. In fact, it is the reverse. During COVID, when there's no business, that's the time when you need to really invest in building your brand. So there is the balance that we'll have to take. Depending on the size of your organizations, you'll have to work smarter to see which is more important. If you're a B2C organization, obviously marketing and so on will be more important than a B2B organization, right? So there's no one standard answer, I would say, to summarize, but you'll have to just see what comes, as more important, in times of VUCA, for example.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, maybe I'll move if nobody else wants to comment on the marketing category. Next question is, which indirect categories you see ESG has more impact? Okay, yeah. So sustainability and ESG, hot topic those days. So what's you, yeah, Gloria?
That's definitely energy. Just echoing what I said just now, because I think a lot of us may, when we focus on our categories, often we find out that we may have forgotten the energy. So when we build our ESG report for the group, we realize that, for instance, like for DFI Retail Group, we have refrigeration, and another it's energy. But energy for all organizations, B2B, B2C, or whatsoever, we all need to pay the energy bills. So that's why I think to tackle the ESG effectively, the first thing is to start on with the energy. So that's why we have started up with a lot of baseline investigation on the energy consumption, and also look into solutions that it's realistic and can pay back in a really short period of time. And then that helps our business to reduce the energy consumptions. Hence, we don't need to pay a lot of energy bills upcoming for the whole business group. So I think this will definitely help on the ESG.
Okay. Anybody else on that ESG impact? What's you, based on your own experience, if you have focus on another category where you think has the most impact? Yeah.
I think it's also travel. In some of
Obviously,
the
yeah.
organizations I've worked in, it's like you have to think 100 times if you really need to take that flight. Okay, and of course, with the fuel and everything, there is also alternative fuel, to be worked on. So some organizations work very closely with, let's say, Airbus or Boeing and all these organizations, or even airline companies, right, to see how we can actually save and have a joint supplier and customer collaboration, all towards ESG, to lift that up in the KPIs as well. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and along the travel category of obviously logistics has probably also has a strong role
Correct.
to play. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next question, and then we'll, if there's no more questions after that, we can then go back to our own topics. There's a question about e-marketplace. Can e-marketplace be used for indirect? Has anybody of you used platforms or e-marketplace to source and purchase services or indirect categories? Yeah, Shinta?
Yeah, I have to say this one is actually depends on the company size first. Like for example, if like last time when I was working in the startup, because we don't have the, like just now it's mentioned, we don't have the privilege or like bigger size to buy. We don't have the buying purchase, so we use the marketplace for the instance. But if like you are in the bigger like company, I think it's really not advisable to use marketplace, because it's like become the buying is become constant, like you buying things in like just whatever you want. But in some company, for example, you have a rules or regulation, you can buy the things below some amount, for example 20 juta, then you can buy from the marketplace, it is here. But nowadays in Indonesia, for examples, the marketplace is already evolved. Like they are using the terms of B2C, they become a B2B, then they serve not only for the consumers, but they also serve for the company. Is it easier for us? Like they have the powers and the bargaining powers for us, then we can buy in terms of like terms of payment, like the deliveries become more confirmed in terms of like the stocks and the delivery. We can have a more time and the details of the products, then we also can negotiate better with them.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting. Yeah. Anybody else on those marketplace, or what's your experience in using them? Yeah, yeah, Niraj.
Uh, from a B2B side, I would agree with them completely. From Shinta's point, it would be much better that we integrate and bring it back into our own platform, where we have it gives our users a variety of prices to choose from. Otherwise, we go back into the old you go back into the old scenario where again spend become undemocratized and too localized, right? And we do see that when we bring it into our own platform, users are able to see the benefit of getting multiple options, but completely governed within our organization's framework.
Okay.
So, hi.
Yeah, can you hear?
Okay, so from my organization's perspective, I basically use e-marketplaces specifically to address the tail spend. So how it helps is that if there are certain marketplaces that, for example, for us, we use them for, specific semiconductor components, specific parts, also specific, or perhaps even research as an e-marketplace. So what we do there is that because some of those volumes are not recurring, um, so it doesn't make sense for procurement to also do anything strategic for those spends. So what we do is we allow for that to happen, and we use the data to then tell us, is there any opportunities for consolidation, say, for example, every 6 months? And when we do, then we bring them into the catalog, and we go from there. So I think it is very helpful because it makes it a lot more consistent from a data perspective, whilst allowing for the users to buy whatever they need to buy based on what is available in the e-marketplace. It's a controlled space within the ERP or the e-procurement tool that we're using. At the same time, gives us good data, and from the data, give us the right approach to actually do consolidation and sort of better pricing down the line.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah,
so that
Christina?
actually means, right, Kenneth, that in the longer run, that procurement people may no longer be required for certain of these categories that fall under
Yes.
e-marketplaces. So a lot of
Yes.
discussions are ongoing, as in what are the key categories that the procurement team ought to be spending the time and money on, and that the hiring does not need to include every single procurement person to handle every single, nitty-gritty purchases as well. So that is another discussion. Yeah.
You are exactly right, and that's where we're heading, because I think at some point it doesn't make sense for us to have a procurement person handling something like a few $1,000s, and you're like, I rather, if I have the luxury of a person, I want them to to bring on the maximum value. I think that's what I think procurement needs to put on the table.
Okay. All right. So I've got a question. So there's been a lot of discussion about the evolving role of procurement, and obviously new technology like AI and Gen AI has been, the hot topic since last year. So how do you see, everybody's using ChatGPT and some other tools. How do you see the impact, especially on procurement and more specifically on indirect categories? Do you see, how much of AI is going to impact your profession, and going back again on that topic of the marketplace, could AI be one day replacing some of the procurement functions, specifically on indirect? Yeah, Gloria.
So I think this is an echoing question to the question just now about the marketplace. So I know that in the market, we are already having some AI technology to do the nitty-gritty sourcing, like what Christina just mentioned about. So I think this could probably take like maybe 1 or 2 years to have the maturity of this AI platform to help us to do the low span sourcing, what we called. So hopefully, I think AI technology helps us to do the nitty gritty works, whereby, like what Kenneth just mentioned, we can focus our energy on doing more strategic procurement in terms of spend, in terms of the organizational direction. So I think AI did help on these aspects. I know that there are some technology that are going to launch, and we are actually exploring some of them as well. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Anybody else on AI and Gen AI and the impact
Uh,
on indirect?
Yeah, so the end of the day, right? I mean, let's not all be nervous about AI is going to steal my job and all that. It's not about that. In fact, it's giving us a chance to evolve our career, procurement career that is, into a very strategic one. So think about areas where AI or RPA, robots and all that can't replace us. That is the procurement consultancy part of it, the strategic thinking of it. That's what I tell my teams all the time. Think differently about procurement. So procurement operations will one day go away with hiring people to do it. The bots will handle that already. So what do I do? So start upskilling ourselves. Look at ESG, sustainability, renewable energy, right? And the likes of that. So that's how we ourselves, even here, will need to evolve our procurement careers to the next level.
Niraj?
If you ask me, I
Yeah,
think
Kenneth. Yeah.
AI will basically remove all. I mean, it's the best thing that can happen. It removes all the administrative parts that we actually don't like. Um, and I mean, all it does is, well, at the same time, it does ensure. I mean, it does lift the capabilities of every procurement individual to a certain level, right? And there's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is, if you can only perform as good as Gen AI, then you might have to rethink what you want to do. Ultimately, you need to be better than what the bot can do. And I think that's where procurement really needs to think, how can I,
Yeah.
become
That's
a better business partner? How can the stuff that I impact really impact the business? Because the bots can never know what the next thing is happening in my company, right? What is important at the end of the day is we need to be close to the business. We need to be, in the pulse of what is happening, and we need to influence and change how things work. AI can never do that. We can.
But can if the issue is that if you start connecting your bot to your database and to all the live systems, probably the bot can actually know and feel what's next because he can already feel the trends and what's happening within your organization, right?
we,
So
we are even starting that, you're right, on a annual basis, because my organization is, the procurement organization is connected to the finance department, so the budgets and the lines within the budgets flow into procurement. So you are right, it's getting closer and closer, and when at some point, um the bot is able to do that, but it doesn't mean that the bot can actually do the influencing, though.
okay, and then go
And
back to your point, Chris.
also,
Yeah,
and
Kenneth, yeah,
and
go
when
ahead.
it gets to the line item of what actually can you change in your category strategy, yes, I think at some point you can say, the bot can also provide some high level category strategies. But I mean, if you ask me, I don't think they, I mean, maybe I'm still not trusting it 100%. So I think someone still will need to validate, and as procurement, to front it and say, hey, we'll take 3 out of 5 and not all 5.
Mm, okay, yeah, Niraj, yeah.
I think one of the best things of AI is it solves a lot of problems on the indirect procurement front, at least, right? I mean, in terms of validation of rationality of suppliers' requests, in terms of data management, in terms of finding strategies to manage the expectations of the business. But like what Christina and Kenneth raised, right? We see that this trend is evolving, and the role of procurement tomorrow will change to be more like a business partner to the organization, where we will be linked to the P&L, and it's not just procurement savings. We are looking for KPIs, or looking for values much greater than what we see today in terms of resilience, ESG, you name it, it's already happening.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, probably I want to echo a little bit on Christina's point, right? So actually, regarding involving ourselves, actually in the past 3 years, right, Hayes and together with CIPS, they do a survey to check, to talk to all the, to collect survey from all the procurement professionals. to identify what are the top competencies, let's say, skills required for procurement professional. In the past 3 years, the top two. Number one, supplier relation management. Number two, communications. Okay, so you could think of it. Okay, so this is something is required, still required. Okay, so I mean, we talk about relationship management, we talk about communication. This is so still people touch, human touch skills, right? So put in that way, I would say yes, we need to acquire more skills related to technology. But at the same time, all the core competencies for qualified procurement professionals still is there. Okay, it's a matter of how you really evolve ourselves, to become a better version of ourselves.
Yeah, but the issue, Eric, is that on supplier relationship management, for example, a bot today can engage with your suppliers and stay updated, ask questions, respond to email. A lot of things can be automated now. So it's happening, and we see, for example, Walmart, for example, who are already using AI bots to, basically manage relationship with suppliers, engage with them, respond to them, and like you say, kind of recreate some kind of a human feel to it. But it's actually everything is automated. So are you not worried that even SRM could just finish in the hands of robots? Yeah.
I would say, okay, put it in a way, I definitely agree that, okay, technology will support SIM because, I mean, basically, any technology that can increase visibility, let's say, facilitate collaborations internally, externally, and measure supply performance, will support SIM. This is okay. This is, I don't deny, right? From that point of view, right, technology can really support us. But when we talk about relationship management, it's not just about, okay, replying the email, replying the message. It's really about, okay, both parties sit down together to explore, to really work as a team, as a, uh, let's say, really a partnership to
Yeah.
define, to explore opportunities, to improve productivity, to improve quality, to reduce risk, to have ongoing savings, so have continuous improvement and to explore innovation opportunities. For all this, right? I mean, I believe at least in the foreseeable future, I mean, human being,
Mm.
procurement professional still play a very critical role.
A more
But
proactive
technology, I agree,
collaboration.
it will
Yeah.
support. Yeah,
Yeah.
technology definitely will support. Yeah, facilitate collaboration, measure survival performance. That's one. Yes, definitely they can support. But at the end of the day, right, technology is not an end in themselves. It should not be seen as a substitute for face-to-face or other personal dialogue, both with the supplier and internally. This is my point of view.
Yeah.
So if I take it one step further, I would say that even for supply relationship management, we have relationships that are very strategic and then relationships that are less. So I think at some point in time, if you want to have a conversation with a vendor on how we can how we can R&D together, how their R&D activities can come into my operations in my factory to to change the way my product can come out at the end of the on the other side. I don't think that's something a bot, at least my imaginable future, be able to replace. Because those take conversations. Sometimes there are hard conversations. So if a strategic supply is not performing, it's almost like as if one of your subordinates are not performing. You actually need to take them down, figuring out what has happened, what could be done differently, where you or your teams could or your internal organization could perform differently so that they could perform. So I think
Yeah.
it's not a zero sum game in a sense. It's like it's not a 1-0 or it will not replace 100%. I think that's probably where Eric is coming from.
Okay. Yeah. Shinta, yeah, you wanted to add something?
No, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Yeah,
I
yeah. Christina or Mark? Yeah, if you want to comment again on AI. Mark, yeah, what's your take on AI? Yeah.
I think Gloria wanted to speak.
No worries, I think, Mark.
Sorry, please go.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. From what I have been working on with the commodities, frankly, I really have not been using that much AI in assisting the actual procurement process, but I've been using it to develop my tender documents actually, because they help me to um, really to brainstorm what are some of the points that I could cover in tender documents. So that's where I have been seeing the value for AI on a personal working level.
Okay, all right. So with that, it's close to the end of the hour, and some of you might have another meeting or call starting in just a few minutes. So we didn't get to cover all the topics, so we are prepared, but that was expected when we get questions. It's in an hour, it's always too short, but no worries. First, we will do this session again. So if you're interested to continue the dialogue and exchange with panelists and speakers on the topic of indirect, we will do another session and we'll let you know in the coming weeks about a new date. And also if you join, because I saw some of you actually joined a little bit later, arrived late. If you missed the early part of the discussion, this forum has been recorded, so you will be able to rewatch it, and we'll be sharing a link to the replay after the event. Just give us 24 hours just to put it together, and we'll be sharing the link to you. I want to thank you again for sharing your insights. Thank you, Gloria, Kenneth, Eric, Christina, Mark, Niraj, and Shinta. Thanks for joining us, giving us your opinion about those different topics. And I would like to invite you again to the next session if you are interested to continue our discussion. So thank you again, and we look forward again to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you
Very
very
much.
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Have a good
Yeah,
Goodbye.
week.
thank you. Thank you for your
Bye,
time.
everyone. Have a good
And
week.
bye
Yes,
bye.
bye-bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.